Welcome to the Halliwell Manor. I'm Max.
And I'm Tina.
And we're here to discuss Season 3, Episode 14 of Charmed.
The good, the bad, and the cursed.
Okay, can I just say I love this episode?
This was a pretty good episode.
I mean, it has such a... I don't want to say bad premise, but it's Prue goes to cowboy times.
It was pretty ridiculous, but also, pretty enjoyable.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's a Prue Cole team-up episode, which I love their dynamic so much. Because, it's the classic two people who don't like each other being paired off together.
Yeah.
And, God, I really regret that we lose the Prue Cole dynamic so quickly. And I know they kind of give Paige the whole mistrust of Cole thing, just because they need someone to have that role, but...
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't really work as well.
Just want to throw out here that this episode was directed by Shannon Doherty. Yeah.
Wow.
She directed 3 episodes. I believe this is the second of the 3 episodes that she directed.
Was the French Stewart Genie one of them, or was it the one before the French Stewart Genie?
It was the French Stewart Genie one.
Yeah. Yep.
But, I mean, That's not
on her.
She didn't write it. Or cast French Stewart, presumably. Which, by the way, nothing wrong with French Stewart. It's just tonally, it was so weird.
Yeah, because they couldn't really seem to figure out, is this guy a serious threat? Is he a sympathetic character? Is he just, a fun goofball? Because he nearly gets Prue murdered, and then he's like, oh no, I didn't know you were going to murder her when I... tricked her into becoming a teenager with no superpowers and then left you alone in a car with her evil warlock dragon guy.
Okay, so not to, rewrite an episode that was 15 episodes ago at this point? Because it was the season 2 finale, right?
Yes, it was for some reason.
So not to, present that rewrite here, but the casting of French Stewart would have been interesting if they had him play... Oh, wait, now I am coming around to direction. If Shannon Doherty had directed him to be kind of sinister, because it would have been unexpected and interesting.
Yeah.
Sorry, Shannon Doherty.
Maybe he's got a, Kevin Sorbo thing where he can't ever be the bad guy. And I guess he doesn't, because he was in Community as basically the bad guy. The guy who was a French Stewart impersonator before he got too old.
Yes, I love that, by the way. Also, Kevin Sorbo was the bad guy in God's Not Dead.
Yeah. Yeah,
he's the evil atheist who beats up his girlfriend and makes his students claim that God is dead, and then he gets hit by a car, but it's okay because at the very last minute, he's converted. He repents, yeah.
Well, I mean, at the last minute he converts, so. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, that's the Christian loophole, right? That's a Protestant loophole, by the way. As a Catholic, we don't. Well, someone who was raised Catholic. We don't have that loophole.
I thought that was what confession was. Is that not what confession is? I mean, I guess you have to do something to make up for your sins after confession.
I mean, you have to do the penance that the priest assigns you at confession. But,
they just make you say stuff, right? Like a priest won't make you wax his car or whatever.
I am unaware of a priest making anyone wax their car, but they can be like... You have to do community service. I mean, usually it's 10 Hail Marys, yes, but they can be You
have to do community service specifically for the church?
No, you have to make amends for what you did.
Yeah.
For what you confessed to. The thing about Protestants is Protestants believe that there is no way that you can be a decent person, right? We are only allowed into heaven via the grace of God, so all you have to do is ask for the grace. Whereas Catholics believe in a combination of grace and works to get into heaven. So that's why you have the Protestant loophole where at the very end you're like, wait, I do want grace, and then you get it, just like that.
I was thinking more of Andromeda, where Kevin Sorbo's character was the most perfect man ever who could never do anything wrong and was even better than men who were genetically altered to become perfect.
Andromeda.
That show is just... And doesn't he end up... I only watched a few episodes of it, but doesn't he end up being an angel or something and having angel powers?
I only watched the first couple of seasons, so I do not know if that is what happens later.
I'm just going off between Andromeda and Hercules. Kevin Sorbo only seemed to like playing men who were perfect at everything all the time.
Yeah.
So, Charmed. I'm sorry, we're so off topic.
We weren't even talking about this episode of Charmed. We were talking about the French to a Genie episode. This episode is much better than that episode.
Yes. So the episode opens with, God, I recognize this car from being a child in the 90s.
I know. As soon as that car drove onto screen, when we were watching this episode, you were like, "Time freeze! Time freeze!"
Not spoiler alert. Premonition. Oh no, we're using our powers all over the place. But Phoebe's dad and his 90s ass car have driven Phoebe to a ghost town he's thinking of buying.
Yep.
Okay, I guess maybe for his company. Maybe his company's going to invest in ghost towns.
Okay, so as you know, I'm still kind of like working out this theory I have that I want to kind of flesh out.
Mm-hmm.
That every story at its core is a real estate story.
Well, here it is for you right here.
Yeah, right? So this is a real estate story. He wants to buy the land, and he brings in Phoebe as a paranormal property inspector. Hat tip to Jenny Nicholson in her video about the amazing...
What is it, the worst reality show ever? Or was that the one for the...
The worst reality show is about...
It was about that, like... future people versus past people reality show.
Yes.
Where they made some people live in a cave and eat fish heads, and they let other people live in a nice house with actual food. And then the people who lived in the nice house with actual food won all of the challenges because they weren't starving in a cave.
Yeah, no, the one I'm thinking of was the video she made about paranormal home inspectors. And
yeah, I was trying to remember the name of that.
I believe that one was called the worst ghost hunting show of all time.
Right. I knew it was the worst something of all time, and I was like, that's kind of a reality show. Jenny Nicholson has good videos. Yeah. Anyway, so Phoebe's like, that's not how my powers work, Dad. I can't just walk into a ghost town and see if there are bad vibes. Oh my God, there's so many bad vibes here.
Okay, so, I don't know. I feel like Phoebe should be practicing her powers, and like... In the first season, she was practicing so that she could get premonitions on demand.
Yeah. Again, not to harp on this, but the John Cho Ghost episode, she worked as a hotel psychic, and she was actually using her powers on all those people.
Mm-hmm.
She had a premonition of that woman gaining weight at a Weight Watchers meeting, which is, you know, probably not the best use of your gift.
Yeah, diet culture's toxic enough without bringing magic into it. Anyway, she sees a fight in the saloon, like the two ghost men fighting, and one of them gets tossed like right through her, and she has a split lip now, the same as that guy did, right? So she is suffering the injury that guy had.
I like how New Dad is just like, he brought her specifically, you know, to sense psychic phenomenon and see if this is going to be a good investment, because apparently this place has a reputation. A spooky reputation. But, like, as soon as he brings her there and she starts seeing ghosts, he's like, what are you talking about? I don't see anything. Come on, Victor. Also, I love how Phoebe's powers are expanding in a way that makes them actively worse. Like, she sees a ghost, the ghost gets knocked through her, this is a ghost she's developing a psychic connection with.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but this isn't an expansion of her powers. As we will learn, this is because this guy, the ghost of this guy... he had the same kind of power she did, so their power, like, resonates together and connects them. It's not an extension of her power. It's just, like, she has a deep, sympathetic connection to him.
Like she did with the succubus in that one episode where she inexplicably became psychically linked with the succubus.
Yes, exactly like that, except this makes more sense.
Yeah, because they're both at least psychics. Maybe the succubus was a psychic before she gave up on love and became a testosterone-eating demon.
No, I don't think it's that she was a psychic. I think it's that this show keeps wanting us to think that Phoebe's story is about giving up on love, even though it's obviously not. Whatever.
So, back at the manor, Piper is setting up for their wedding. The wedding is happening. Everyone get ready. It's going to be the Piper and Leo wedding. Hopefully, Prue won't do anything to make it all about her. Well, maybe she got it out of her system when she got married last episode.
Oh, yeah, that's true. She did totally steal Piper's thunder.
But, yeah, they're setting up the dinner table for a pre-wedding, dinner.
Yeah, I think it's like the rehearsal dinner, because now that Victor's in town.
I thought Victor moved to town so he could be in the show more often.
You're right, he did. Last episode he said that he was moving to San Francisco. Yeah.
Or the last episode he was in.
Anyway, Leo shows up and Piper's like, Leo, don't ruin the table. I just got it set and everything needs to be perfect. And Leo's like, everything's going to be fine as long as demons don't come into the house. And it's like, what's wrong with you, Leo? What?
Are you new?
What? Oh.
And Phoebe bursts into the room and she's like, Ghosts attack me and now my nose is bleeding. And Piper's like, thanks, Leo.
So Leo immediately goes to heal Phoebe because that's like his job. And Phoebe's like, hey, Dad, wait outside. Because apparently Victor does not know that Leo is a white lighter.
Oh, yeah, we kind of skipped over it a little bit, but Victor was grilling Phoebe on Leo, and he talked about how much he likes the fact that Piper's marrying a normal human man and not a magic freak.
Yep.
Which, Jesus Christ, Victor. Also, like, I feel like witch mortal weddings are kind of the norm. Like, I mean, granted, we haven't seen a lot of witches outside of the family, but...
Yeah, I mean, who else would you marry?
Yeah, this is before they were just casually dude witches.
Mm-hmm. So, Victor, leaves, and then he comes back in with all of these, like, plat books and maps and deed and property records for the ghost town so they can go through it and figure out what the deal is with the ghosts. And I just want to say, that's basically what I do for a living. That's my job, and my day job, my normal job.
Mm-hmm.
And remember that meme from a few years ago, the like what other people think I do, what my parents. Okay, so this is what I think I do.
So Victor goes off to take Leo for one of those, if you hurt my daughter, I'm gonna shoot you with my gun. I don't know why I put it on an accent for that. It's a region non-specific, awful dad thing to do.
Oh, except it's even worse than that, because he's not even like, the stereotypical. He's like, now I want to warn you about something. Because my daughter's a witch, she's gonna have a white lighter. And white lighters are terrible. They are definitely gonna have sex with your wife.
He says they're worse than demons, which is pretty messed up considering the fact that your, I guess at the time, ex-wife was murdered by a demon.
Yeah, but she had sex with a white lighter. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's... The gender politics of this are terrible. Ugh.
Just the fact that he describes... hey, your wife might sleep with a coworker is worse than your wife getting... Demons and warlocks are constantly trying to kill them.
Okay, so, it's terrible. And yeah, it's like, I kind of get the... witches and white lighters are, by necessity, very close together. And...
their powers do literally require love to work. It is not the best situation.
They have a bond that you can't understand, but... I mean, come on. Respect that your daughter has some agency. She's not going to cheat on her husband, she's not destined to cheat on her husband just because you couldn't satisfy her mother.
I was going to say to be fair, but not particularly to be fair. Piper and Leo do briefly split up, and she very, very briefly dates a fireman. But, like, that's not really a...
No, that's not... Yeah. So, back at the manor, the sisters are going through all the property records, and...
Phoebe notices that she's got a bruise.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, oh, this is not my favorite thing. I don't care for this. I like to just... see horrible things happen to other people and then have that be it.
Right. And Prue notices that nothing in the property records goes past 1873.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately jumps to the correct conclusion that the town is in a time loop.
And then she flips open the Book of Shadows to a page about time loops. I want to go back a little bit here to the season 1 finale. Mm-hmm. When they were fighting Tempest, the Demon of Time, and expressly could not find anything about time loops in the Book of Shadows, and I believe literally said the lines, there's nothing about time loops in the Book of Shadows.
Maybe they wrote that page.
Huh. Well, Grams does keep flipping back to it. Do you think maybe once they encountered it, it just kind of filled in like a Pokedex? Because I don't really think they, maybe Phoebe? I don't know.
No, I'm gonna guess that, I'm just gonna say, I'm throw out there, I'm gonna say Phoebe put that in there. Because that's the deal. Also, you remember that the Book of Shadows does magically get thicker over time? Like, when Melinda Warren first started it, it was like a very thin book, and now it's like a big, thick book because it keeps getting magically added to. So, yeah, I think that there was like magical assistance to it, but Phoebe like put that in there, but with magical assistance.
Yeah.
Not like later when she tapes Cole's photograph to the Balthazar page.
Yeah, I feel like it is kind of a combination of, like, their ancestors just writing in it when stuff happens, and the book just kind of naturally growing over time.
Yeah. So actually, I like that there's a time loop page in there, because they would have put the time loop page in there. And they reference that they dealt with this with Tempest, and they're like, but Tempest is dead. And if I know one thing, it's that, well, right. But also, if I know one thing, it's that only one demon can have every power. That's the rule.
God, even in this episode, also, Tempest wouldn't need to be alive to do this. It just would have meant that he did it in 18 whatever.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah. I didn't even think about that. Okay. So Cole shows up with flowers at the front door, and he's just like,
oh, it's
hi!
so great.
Like nothing happened. Like, he didn't try to kill them for a year, and like they didn't think he was vanquished. He's just like, hey, I'm just here to court your sister.
And Prue's like, hey, why don't you leave before we murder you? And Cole's like, Prue.
He says that he's not going to use his powers against them, and that he's going to stop using his powers altogether, because he's going to suppress his demon side and just be a good human.
That's not how that should work, but...
Also, they're like, you can't be good, you're a demon. And he's like, but...
half demon?
Yeah. I mean, so basically it's what we talked about last time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Evil is something you are, not something you do.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, so they're getting ready to kick Cole out when Phoebe has another premonition of the guy that she's psychically connected to getting shot. And, now she's shot.
Yeah,
This is not helpful, psychic-wise.
It's not this is what I'm saying, though. This isn't a premonition. This is a psychic connection to Bo. Bo is the guy's name.
Bo, yes.
So, we go to commercial, and when we come back from commercial, we're back in the diner.
Back in the crowded diner that's full of people.
Where Victor is grilling Leo and also warning him about how terrible white lighters are. Seriously, he was telling him about how bad white lighters are because they're gonna steal your woman. It's all like, you and the guy she told you not to worry about.
God.
And then we went back to the manor. Then we had a commercial break. Now we come back, and he's still going on about how terrible white lighters are.
And Leo's like, I don't know. I heard that they were, like, good guys who like to help people. And Victor's like, yeah, that's just their line. That's just the line they use to get into your house and sleep with your wife.
So then, okay, this is one of my favorite moments, I think, in all of Charmed.
Mm-hmm.
Because the elders call Leo at this point, and he's just like, oh man, Victor, I am so sorry about what I'm gonna do right now. But, bye. And then he orbs away.
Yeah, I mean, I think it might be one of the things where he can psychically feel Phoebe's pain or whatever.
Oh, of course, yes. I said it was the elders, but no, it's because he feels that Phoebe needs his help. Yeah.
But he just orbs out in the middle of a crowded diner right in front of Victor's face.
Oh, and Victor's so pissed. It's amazing. I love it.
So Leo orbs in and he sees Cole and he's like, what's he doing here? And they're like, don't worry about it. Phoebe got shot. And Leo's like, does it have anything to do with the demon who's standing over there? And they're like, no, it's a whole different thing.
But it turns out that Leo can't heal the gunshot.
Because Phoebe is not actually injured. She's just psychically connected to someone who's injured.
Yep.
So she'll die if he dies, but the healing can't go the other way through.
Yes. That makes sense.
Yeah. So Cole comes up with a suggestion because they can't just go to where Bo is because Bo's trapped in sort of this separate dimension. Like, apparently being stuck in a time loop takes you out of the current timeline and kind of shunts you into a side timeline.
Okay, so you know what this episode is weirdly a better version of?
What?
The Buffy episode with the...
Oh, where she gets stuck in the shop over and over again doing the time loop?
No, with the teacher and the student who were having an affair.
Oh, yeah, the one with the ghosts. The, I Only Have Eyes for You.
Yes. This is a better version of that. Because...
There's no creepy teacher-student thing.
Oof, yeah. But here, Phoebe is, being forced to live out Bo's time loop just the way that in that episode of Buffy, various people are being forced to live out in a loop over and over again the murder of that teacher by that student. So, but this is better. I don't even know what's happening, Max. This Charmed episode is doing a Buffy riff, and I like it more than the Buffy episode. What is even this episode?
Well, I think the main reason you like it might be coming up right now, because Cole's like, hey, so it turns out shifting dimensions is one of my, thousands of powers that I happen to have, and I've been using it to evade demons, and I could probably just, zoop you into the time loop so we can find Bo and fix him up so my girlfriend doesn't die. Prue's like, A, not your girlfriend. Phoebe is not your girlfriend. She's your ex who you were only dating to try to murder us. And B, I thought you weren't using your powers anymore, so you'd just be a regular human. And he's like, well, teleportation doesn't hurt people, Prue.
Yeah, also, he's like, plane shifting isn't like a power.
I mean, that's not a great excuse. It's definitely a power, but...
He's also like, look, I know that I was dating Phoebe so I could get close to you and kill you. That's the way it started. But it became real.
That is not the argument you think it is, dude.
Yeah. So basically, they explain that Leo can't just go back in time and heal Bo, probably because it already happened.
Well, Leo says it's because the elders won't let him work with a demon, which really, that seems like just a really bad out for this. The elders won't let me... I mean, you're technically going to be on a mission to heal Phoebe.
Yeah.
This falls pretty firmly under your white lighter thing.
Also, I mean, Bo is possessing of magical abilities and is good. I mean, he's basically also within your purview.
Yeah. Why didn't Bo have a white lighter?
Well, because he's part of a different magical system.
Oh, that's true. He's not technically a witch. We'll talk about this. It's not...
I'm not sure how I feel about it.
Yeah, it's not I don't know.
So I went on a deep dive to decide how I feel about it.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll talk about that when...
Yeah, when it comes up. Bo's Native American. I don't think we mentioned that.
We did not.
Bo's Native American, and there's some very era-specific Native American in media tropes here.
Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna talk about it.
Okay.
So, I actually read the transcript of a keynote presentation on the depiction of Indigenous people in pop culture throughout history that was given by the actor who portrays Bo, because he is also a professor. He's also an academic. He's, badass, by the way.
He very much is.
I'm not saying his name because I don't want to spoil the premonition.
Yeah.
Anyway, he talked about how... He talked in that keynote about being called into audition for roles that he described as, the weird stilted language and the kind of mysticism and romanticization of kind of the
Native cultures.
The Native cultures, which is what we have here. So it's not
the worst thing ever. It's not every Native American superhero ever having, like, animal telepathy for no reason.
Yeah. Yeah. But, you know, it's...
And it's a world where lots of different people have magical powers, so...
Yeah, it's like you don't want to... Well, the thing that makes it awkward is the stereotypical way that Bo is presented to us, right? Like, I don't want to say, oh, because there is a stereotype of, like, the native, you know, mystic, no indigenous person can portray a magic user. That's ridiculous. But, you know, this falls well into, like, cliche stereotype territory.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I keep wanting to say it's not as bad as other stuff, but, like, it's not great. But, like, also, again, I feel like Bo's not really an active enough character in the episode for us to really say anything. Like, the one thing we really know about him, two things we really know about him. He's against this evil guy taking over the town, and he has vague psychic powers.
Right, and then he inherited them from his father.
Yeah, who's possibly the crow that's been following Phoebe around all episode.
It's definitely the crow.
Okay. So
I mean, that... I spoke with such certainty, but no, my theory is that it's the crow.
Yeah, it's not great.
We didn't mention that, but there is a crow that's been following Phoebe around.
Yeah. Which does give this episode a cool witchy feel, which it doesn't always have.
Which is bizarre because, you know, it's a show about witches.
Kit Watch 2020. We haven't seen Kit in a while.
That's true.
I'm sorry, it would be Kit Watch 2022. It's been so long since we've seen Kit. So, Cole is like, okay, fine, look, I'll just take care of this myself. If Sparkle Boy won't come with me. And Prue's like, no. I don't trust you to take care of this situation by yourself. What if you do it all evil? I'm coming with you. And she, like, grabs Cole's arm, and he's like, okay. And he shimmers into this different time loop. Like, he did that really easily.
Yeah, because he can jump between, like, vibrations of reality.
I want to point out something really quickly.
Go ahead.
Prue is wearing a backless shirt, which normally isn't worth bringing up, except for as soon as they teleport into the past, Cole pushes Prue against this, like, ramshackle wooden building, and I'm like, oh my god, he has to have just scraped up her back so much.
Okay, I was actually going to bring up her backless shirt.
Mm-hmm.
It's really weird. It's a very, like, early 2000s shirt where it's... The front is, like, a long sleeve shirt, and then there's just literally no back. It just ties. Because he's like, okay, we better find some local clothing and get changed right away. And yes, absolutely. But also, instead of having to go steal clothes off a clothesline, which happens in between scenes, I feel like you should have given Prue a second to throw on a t-shirt and jeans before you went back in time. And yeah, she probably would have had to steal a jacket and a hat or something, but, you know, she could have not been wearing a bright pink backless polyester blend shirt.
I want to point out, Prue grabs hers off a clothesline. Cole explicitly takes his off a dead guy. He sees a dead guy being dragged down the street. He's like, hey, nice duds. And Prue's like, oh, you're so gross. I'm going to go steal clothes from a, you know, clothesline because it's not like I'm be totally screwing someone over doing that.
Also, when they walk into the saloon, the clothes that she's wearing are like...
She's wearing a cowgirl outfit.
She's wearing a cowgirl outfit. And he's like, I think you should have taken that red dress. And she's like, no.
I don't want anyone thinking I'm a prostitute, is what she says. Which, geez, Prue. Way to judge people.
So they go into the saloon, and Prue tries to order moonshine, and the bartender's like,
what are you talking about?
And then Cole's like, whiskey. And then he tells Prue she's been watching too many movies. And I'm like, I'm sorry. This whole episode was written just based on watching westerns with no understanding of the actual era, so maybe you should calm down, Cole.
I do love... Cole seems to be having a fucking ball here. It's great.
Yeah.
Like, Prue's like, I don't trust you, Cole. Like, we're working together to save Phoebe, but I don't trust you. And he's like, you can trust me. I'm a good guy. See, I have a white hat. And
yes, he does do that.
It's very cute. Cole seems very invested in his new role.
It's interesting how Cole has, like, no concern over Phoebe. Like, he's... Not because he's not concerned about her, but, like, it doesn't even cross his mind that they're not going to succeed on this mission.
Okay, so this almost bothered me for a little bit. I know this is one of the less consistent rules about time travel here. Both Prue and Cole have their powers.
This is not time travel.
Yes.
It is a time loop. So it exists in the present. So they have their powers.
Because one of the big rules of charmed time travel is that you lose your powers if you go back to a point before you were born. Unless you're Chris for some reason.
Yeah.
It's weird that that is one of the fairly established and very often followed rules, except in the season that deals with time travel.
Well, that's because then it just became too complicated. Plus, we'll talk about this when we get there, but I remain convinced that they did not know who Chris was when they started writing him.
Oh, God, no. No, the Piper's son thing was a definite retcon. But anyway, some bad guys burst into the bar.
You can tell they're bad guys because they're wearing black hats.
Yeah. And they talk about how this is their town, and they shot the sheriff, and they also shot the deputy, and, you know, now everything belongs to them, and they're looking for the one guy who's standing up against them. It's the Native American guy. Although they say that he's half Native American.
Yes.
That's weird.
I
It doesn't come into the plot at all. It's a very odd thing.
Yeah, it is pretty random. But this bad guy, I kind of admire the style here that he went to the newspaper and attacked everyone there and printed up a newspaper for the evening edition saying that this guy was gonna die. Like, that's how he decided to break the news. Like, that's so extra.
So the guy's sister is Beau's sister. Beau's sister is hanging out at the bar, and he's like, "So, you better tell your brother goodbye, because I'm gonna kill him. Kill him until he dies from it." And Beau's sister's like, "Yeah, whatever, dude."
Yeah. Oh, by the way, the reason he's after Beau is because Beau's the only person who's resisting him taking over the whole town. It's vague. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Beau is the last bastion of holdout from this guy. I guess that was just a thing you could do back then. You could roll into a town with like 4 dudes and be like, "This is my town now. Everyone has to give me gold," or whatever.
Mm-hmm. So, a guy gets stabbed in the hand because he does, and then Prue runs over to treat the wound, and then the gang of bad guys are like, "Hey, you don't know who you're messing with, little lady," and then she kicks everyone's ass and shoots and does some sharpshooting.
Yeah. I kind of thought Prue didn't have her powers for most of the episode until she uses them right near the end, because she shoots a lot of people. Non-fatally, but apparently she's just really, really good with guns.
And she's doing, like, trick shooting, too. Like, not just pulling out a gun and aiming it.
Yeah. See, they were gonna physically fight her because she's dressed like a man. They're like, "I don't normally hit women, but since you're dressed like a man," and then, you know, trick shooting and kung fu fighting. And someone in the background's about to shoot Prue when Cole pulls a gun on him, and he's like, "Yeah, you might want to rethink that."
I mean, I like this scene. It's fun. I don't really care that Prue magically knows how to use guns. I'm kind of okay with it.
Honestly, I would not be. Prue does kind of strike me as the sort of person who might be really into guns.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we haven't seen anything about that, but yeah, I would believe it.
It fits her more than the photography thing.
Yeah. I was going to say we haven't seen that in forever, but I'm pretty sure it's the plot of the next episode. It involves the photography thing.
I thought the next episode was Piper and Leo's wedding.
Oh, you're right. It is. It is. I was thinking it's Death Takes a Halliwell, but it's not. That's a couple episodes from now.
So, Beau's sister comes up to Prue and Cole, and she's like, "Wow, you kicked all of their asses really easily. If only 2 other people in town stood up against them, we could just make them all leave. If only other people in this town had guns, this would be a non-issue, but..."
Yeah, you know what stops a bad guy with a gun? Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's terrible. Anyway, Prue tells Beau's sister that they know that Beau's been shot and they want to help him. And she's like, yeah, I know. He told me you were coming. Because he's psychic.
He's got the gift, which, it could be worse. It's generic. I think Drusilla had the gift in Buffy. Like, it's a pretty generic way to talk about vague psychic powers. So, So she goes to bring them to Beau because Beau, is shot and is not doing great.
And she's got 3 horses because
Beau told her that 2 people would be coming.
Yeah. I figured that if you rescued that lady, then...
Yeah. So...
To make a Princess Bride reference.
So, Prue tells Cole that they're doing this mission her way, which means that he can't kill anyone.
She's mad at him for pulling a gun on the guy that was about to shoot her.
Yeah.
Even though she totally shot the people who were trying to shoot at her.
Non-fatally, though. I mean, come on.
Okay, but here's the thing. Yeah. In a time, like, without access to antibiotics, there's no such thing as, oh, it's okay, it's a non-fatal shot. Not saying that necessarily you would always die from a bullet wound, but you can't be like, oh, it's okay, it's a non-vital organ.
Okay, so there's a movie that I used to watch a lot when I was in high school, just because I got the DVD for like $5 at Walmart.
Sure.
I don't know if you remember it. It's called The Mexican. It's a movie.
Isn't that Robert Rodriguez movie with Antonio Banderas?
No. It's a movie starring Brad Pitt and I want to say Julia Roberts.
Okay, that's pretty random. Go ahead.
They're like this American couple who got hired to find this gun in Mexico, and the gun's called the Mexican, and it supposedly has magic powers. It's like a rom-com drama movie. It's not very good, but I spent almost no money on it.
Sounds pretty terrible.
But there's a bit where Brad Pitt's trying to get a guy to give him information. He's like, "Well, I'm just gonna shoot you," and the guy's like, "Well, if you shoot me, then I can't tell you where the gun is." And he's like, "Well, then I'll just shoot you in the hand." And he's like, "Yeah, you know how I'll bleed out and die almost instantly if you shoot me in the hand." And then, he's like, "Okay, the foot." And he's like, "No, seriously, do you not know where all the major arteries are?"
It's true. And also, even if you...
They're like con men, so it's supposed to be like funny because they're way over their heads.
But yeah, no. Those guys that Prue shot died of sepsis the next week.
She just shot them in the hands to knock the guns out of the hand.
Oh, okay, so it doesn't count.
So Leo takes Piper to the ghost town to see if she can pick up on any vibrations or anything. Okay. So they go into the saloon because, hey...
That's where everything goes down. That's where people get shot.
They've all seen cowboy movies, and there's the crow is watching them. The crow's like, "Arr!"
She says to Leo that if they don't save Phoebe, there won't be a rehearsal dinner. And while that is true, that's what you're concerned about?
So Leo finds the newspaper,
Yeah, the newspaper that says Beau's gonna die at sundown, that the bad guy got printed up because he's extra.
Yeah, and Leo's like, I have a feeling that Phoebe only has until sundown to live.
Okay, so this is the day they're on is the day that all the records stopped, right? The latest records were only of this date. And so Prue and Cole went into this time loop thinking that they would have until midnight because that's when the time loop would reset. So they thought because, that's the end of the day. And when Piper and Leo find this newspaper, they're like, oh no, they actually only have until sundown. But the paper was printed as a threat ahead of the death of Beau. So I don't know why they're taking it as fact.
I mean, they don't know that. They just know it's a paper that says someone died.
No, it says...
To die.
To die. Right. Whatever, it doesn't matter. They think they have till midnight. They actually have till sundown. That's the gist of it.
Meanwhile, Phoebe's dying. Poor Victor. I mean, I'm glad we have new dad for this, but he's like, I'm not going to let anything bad happen to you. And Phoebe's like, I really don't feel like you have a choice.
Also, you're the one who brought me to the ghost town and didn't even give me a heads up what you were doing.
Yeah, so this is kind of your fault. And Victor's like, shh, it's okay. Daddy's here.
He's like, I want to know what's going on in your life. Tell me what's happening.
And Phoebe's like, I'm dying.
This is seriously like Alyssa Milano's
Swan song.
Emmy reel.
Oh yeah, no, she is acting in this scene. She's fine. She's good. I feel bad for Phoebe. I don't want her to die. But yeah, she is doing a lot of serious acting here.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Victor does not know how to handle this situation. He's
like, I can help. I'm your father. I know stuff. I've been around. And she's like, all right, you brought me to a ghost town. A ghost infected me, and now I'm dying in time with his death that happened back in 1873. Is that the year I said? Back in 1873. Victor's like, okay, I don't actually have an answer to this.
Leo and Piper orb into the room, and Leo's like, we found out when Bo dies, and we need to get that information to him, so Phoebe, we need you to have a premonition of what's going to happen to Bo so he can see it and then stop it from happening.
She needs to send a premonition to Bo. I like that. I like that kind of answer.
I mean, honestly, I know that they kind of play around with this but don't end up actually doing anything with it later. But getting the ability to share her visions with others would be a really good way to kind of power up Phoebe.
Yes.
I mean, honestly, just kind of cycling her into more general psychic powers, but yeah.
Back in the time loop, Cole's like, you know, Prue, you don't have to be so nasty. It wouldn't kill you to be nice to me. And she's like, you literally tried to kill us. Phoebe was nice to you, and it almost killed us.
And Cole's like, I'm good now. And Prue's like, people don't change. That's like the one thing I've learned over the last 3 years of demon fighting is that people don't change.
And Cole's like, look, you should have vanquished me back in the crypt, because that would be the only way you could keep me from trying to win back Phoebe's heart. And Prue's like, okay, I will fucking vanquish you. And then Bo's sister is like, can you not right now? Because we have bigger issues going on.
My brother still wants to confront the guy who's murdering everyone. The guy who's... What would you call him? A bandit king, or...
Sure, let's go with that.
Yeah, Bo's still gonna go confront the bandit king because he's got this weird idea that people are good, and if he stands up to him, then the whole town will too.
So, Prue and Cole show up, and Bo's like, what? These are not the people I had a premonition about. These two people are obviously no help.
Weird.
He's got premonitions, he knows.
So, Prue and Cole are like, we're here to help you. And Cole's like, but specifically because you're psychically attached to my girlfriend. And Prue's like, she's not your girlfriend.
But this is good, because he doesn't trust them. And they're like, look, you don't have to trust that we want to help you. Trust that I want to save the woman I love. And, okay. So Bo says to Cole, he's like, you have an aura of evil around you, just like the bad guy. His name is Sutter. The bad guy's name is Sutter.
Yeah.
He's like, you have an evil aura around you, just like Sutter does. And because of that, I thought that Sutter was also a demon, but you pointed out to me that nothing in this episode indicates that he actually is.
Yeah. I mean, he's defeated by Prue, shooting him, so that seems to indicate that he's not a demon.
Yeah, so... But I thought that's what that was. I thought that's why they had the same aura.
Yeah, that would have made sense. But no, it's just because Cole's evil naturally, and this guy's evil because he's a douche.
Yeah.
Which I guess is also naturally.
So Bo's sister tells him that if he dies, the whole town is going to get cursed to live in a time loop. And Cole and Prue decide to make him feel safe opening up to them by showing him that Cole can also shimmer.
That they are magic too. So
yeah, so he can talk to them about magic. I think it's interesting that he's afraid to talk about magic because he's afraid that, you know, they'll burn him at the stake or something.
Yeah.
And this entire conversation is happening in a destroyed church. well done. Like, well done.
So, meanwhile, Sutter, the evil guy, the bandit king, is yelling at his minions because he needs them to find Bo because he doesn't want his newspaper title to be inaccurate.
He cares about, journalistic integrity.
Yeah, so the guy whose hand they stabbed earlier, I said they shot the sheriff and then shot the deputy, but I think this guy was the deputy, and he was, like, not really standing up against them after they shot the sheriff, and now he's straight up just giving them information.
Well, yeah.
He's the guy who got his hand stabbed, right?
Yes.
So he's like, yeah, I know where they are.
But back in the church, Prue's like, okay, I am going to pull the bullet out of you. And it's not always best practice to pull out the bullet, especially if you don't know what you're doing. But anyway, Prue uses her telekinesis to pull out the bullet.
I guess that would be, like, the least,
Well, at least you're not sticking a dirty instrument into the hole and making everything worse.
Yeah, I think it's probably the most hygienic way to get a bullet out.
Yeah, as long as you're not going to make the wound worse by
pulling it out.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't know, actually, I feel like Prue's never really been great at really precise telekinesis, but...
Anyway, Bo, we flash back and forth between Bo and Phoebe having the same vision of Bo's death, and we see the crow watching everything again, and Bo's like, oh, okay, maybe y'all are on the level.
So, back at the manor, Phoebe is freaking the fuck out because she actually felt herself dying in the premonition. And she's like, okay, I was aware that I was dying, but then I actually felt like I died. And then I came back to just feeling like I was dying. And oh my god, I can't handle this. I'm like 22 years old. I am not ready to die yet.
That happens in Morality Bites too, doesn't it?
Where she actually felt herself burning to death. And the,
yeah. Just saying, poor Phoebe.
Yeah, Phoebe, that's weird. I don't really think of Phoebe as being a character who, like, dies that often, but she's had some pretty brutal ones.
Yeah.
Also, she was the only one who remembered the time loop episode, and she died in the first 2 time loops, so the original one.
Oh.
With Tempest.
Yeah. Huh.
You know, Tempest should have just quit when he was ahead. Like,
I know! You've already destroyed the power of 3!
Like, granted, it sucks that Prue's still alive and she, you know, probably be really pissed at you or whatever, but, like, you took away the power of 3. I feel like she really wouldn't have a defense against upper-level demons at that point.
Yeah.
God, the system's really balanced against the forces of good, right? Like, every upper-level demon needs a power of 3 spell to vanquish.
Well, I mean, the system's balanced against the charmed ones. I don't know if I'm gonna call them the power of good. Anyway, in the manor, Victor is, like, yelling at Leo. He's like, do something! Isn't it your job to do something? And he's like, no, actually, my job is to support them. They're the ones whose job is to do something. He's like, Prue and Cole are gonna take care of it, because that's their job. And then Phoebe says that Cole will absolutely not let her die because he loves her as much as she loves him.
Aww.
I love their relationship.
It is pretty great.
I wish she didn't send him to Super Hell later.
So the men are coming for Bo. The evil men. The bad men. The black hats.
Yep.
And Cole's like, so do you want me to just, like, kill them? Or, and Prue's like, no, that's not how we handle these situations.
Yeah. So she doesn't want Cole to teleport Bo out because somehow, even though he'll live, that won't break the time loop, even though his death is what creates the time loop.
Yeah, the town has to stand up for Bo in order to break the time loop. The injustice that was done when they just let Bo get killed in front of them needs to be undone by them not letting Bo get killed in front of them.
Oh, you know what? I said it like it was confusing, but now it actually makes sense. Like, people from outside the time loop can influence it, but they can't break the spell. They can't break the curse by using magic to change the outcome. The people who were there in the first iteration have to behave differently.
Yeah, by the way, Bo is figuring this out because Prue says that we can't just teleport him out, but she doesn't really have a follow-up when Cole's like, why? And Bo's like, oh, I get it. And he explains the whole thing that it's not his actions or Sutter's actions that caused the time loop. It was the betrayal of the whole town. And I'm kind of assuming the crow probably had something to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, he says that the curse was basically his father cursing the townspeople. So yeah.
So Bo's like, look, I know that I died when I went to confront them before, but maybe that won't happen in this incarnation of the time loop. And he opens the door and a bunch of doves fly out.
Like this is a John Woo movie or something. It's so ridiculous, honestly. Like, where did those doves even come from? It's so weird and amazing. It's like so over the top.
Yeah, he comes out in slow motion, just surrounded by doves.
With like hero lighting, it's quite a thing. And then we immediately that's the shot of him coming out, and then we cut to him being dragged into the town square, and it's just the difference between him walking out all glorious and then him being dragged down Main Street is
it's a lot.
It's stark.
So Sutter's men shove Bo down and they're like, okay, so we're gonna just whip this guy to death while you all watch.
Which is, by the way, what Phoebe was experiencing before, and it's
coming back now.
Yeah, it's grim.
So Sutter is whipping Bo to death. Bo's sister runs up to stop them, but Prue holds her back. And then I don't get how this is supposed to work with the whole, like, you know, they can't break the time loop by interfering, but if they give a giant speech, then that somehow doesn't count as interfering. A giant speech that convinces the townspeople to help Bo.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
Because, you know, Bo's getting whipped and he's like, it's okay, I have faith in you, I believe that you won't let me die, and everyone in the town's like, oh, I don't know about this. And Prue's like, no, you need to protect Bo, because he's the spirit of your town, and he's the spirit of the Old West, and he's a true soul, and it is the duty of those to protect the whatever, and to even together the weak can be strong, and do good stuff, and good stuff will happen to you, and you won't get stuck in a time loop.
Yeah. I mean, that... Yeah.
Yeah. And then all of the townsfolk realized that they had guns the whole time.
Okay, so there's an economic principle called the first mover problem, which is what this is. So the first mover problem is, the first person to pull their gun has to think that everyone's going to follow suit, otherwise they're going to get shot.
Yeah.
So, first mover problem.
Yeah, the bar owner pulls his gun and shoots Sutter's gun out of Sutter's hands, and then all the rest of the townspeople pull their guns.
I know it seems ridiculous because, as you said, they all had guns, but it's true to human nature.
Yeah. I do love how everyone in the town is just waiting for this. And Sutter grabs Bo's sister, and he's like, hostage situation. Wait, never mind. And he just shoves her away and hops on a horse.
He realizes that he's surrounded by people with guns.
Yeah, she's not a great meat shield if you're surrounded on literally all sides.
So, I mean, I guess he does. He does get people to hesitate just long enough that he can hop on his horse and take off. But then Prue is, like, chasing him down on her horse.
I love how Prue's like, You stand back, Bo. I'm going to take care of this. Non-interference. So...
Also, like, Prue knows how to ride a horse. And shoot from a horse.
Yeah, she shot him off the horse. Then she shoots him in what looks like the chest. But he's okay enough to just walk to the sheriff's office or whatever.
Okay, no. I think she shot him and missed, and that caused the horse to buck and throw him. And then she shot, and you're right that it looks like the chest, but he grabs his shoulder. So she shot him in the shoulder.
Then she telekinetically throws him through a window.
And she's like, well, he's not going to be bothering you anymore.
I mean...
She throws people through windows all the time.
I think he's probably dead.
I guess. I mean, in reality, he would be, but I feel like people get thrown around a lot on this show.
I mean, also, he was shot.
Yeah, I guess.
But
in the saloon, Cole is fighting with one of Sutton's minions, and he runs out of bullets, and he's like, oh, wait, I'll just throw a flame at him. Just as Prue walks in and is like, I knew you were a demon.
Yeah, she comes in as Cole's laughing at the man's burning corpse. He's like, oh, wow.
Yeah, you're right. It's not just that he used his fire to burn someone to death, but also that he was enjoying it.
Yeah, that guy was a creep. He was the creepy minion.
Yeah, but I guess it's like it's okay to kill Sutter if you feel bad about it.
I mean, she didn't, though. It's okay if you're not actively tickled by it, I guess. Because, yeah, she has the once a demon, always a demon line. And Cole's like, do you want to go back or not? And apparently they changed before coming back.
Yep, and they shimmer back to the present, and Cole has his arm around Prue, like, hey, Prue's my buddy, and she's just so irritated, she tosses his arm off. It's pretty great.
Seriously, I love the dynamic they have throughout this whole episode. It's awesome.
And then Piper's like, okay, now can we have my rehearsal dinner, please? The thing that matters?
Well, Victor asks, so did they just reincorporate into history, or Prue's, or what? And Prue's like, no, they created a separate timeline that'll just keep going from that point and create a just alternate reality with a completely alternate history. And Victor's like, oh, okay. Which, I appreciate them throwing it in, but it seems like a weird question for Victor to ask.
No, it's absolutely the question I would ask. Because if they've been in a time loop, that means that they haven't been affecting any time from after 1873. So what happened when all of these people who didn't exist after that all of a sudden exist? There's going to be so much of a ripple effect across history. So, no, I would have needed to know that.
Plus, Prue definitely killed a few guys.
Yeah, that too.
Like, that would probably... I know butterfly effect, but that would probably affect things some.
Totally.
Anyway, Phoebe has a my hero moment where she kisses Cole and Prue's like, ugh.
Yeah, she tells him she wants him to stay for the rehearsal dinner.
And Prue tacitly gives her approval by not actively saying anything.
I guess that's what that is.
Prue doesn't actively object. So, and that's the end of the episode. I really like this episode.
I did too. It's really enjoyable, and it's like, it's kind of light, relatively speaking.
Yeah, I mean, Phoebe's dying very dramatically, but other than that, it's basically a fun buddy adventure story with Prue and Cole, and it's good. They have a lot of antagonistic chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it's kind of fun to see Cole as being like, I'm trying to be good, so that means being super peppy all the time.
He's just upbeat. He's like, you know what? He's to make another Buffy reference, he's Spike at the end of the Love is a Bitch episode where he's like, you know what? Enough sulking. I'm gonna go find Drew and make her love me again.
So, much like the Charmed ones, we have our own power of 3. The first power in our pack is Premonition, who in this episode is, was, or will become famous later. I believe we probably have the same one.
Yes. Well, as I previewed before, it's the actor who plays Bo. Bo is played by Michael Grey Eyes, who is, like, killing it right now.
You've seen him in a lot of stuff, but specifically, he just had a killer role in Rutherford Falls.
Well, so he had a killer role in Rutherford Falls. He's currently killing it on Fear the Walking Dead, apparently, which I don't watch, but apparently he is. And he had a movie, like an acclaimed movie last year as well. He was actually, the website Film School Rejects, he was their actor of 2021. Like, they were like, Michael Grey Eyes, it is all about him.
Seriously, if you haven't seen Rutherford Falls yet, you should check it out. It's really good.
Yeah. So so Michael Grey Eyes, as I mentioned, is both a professor and an actor, and he talks about film history, and he is First Nation. He's Plains Cree, from Canada. He's Canadian. And as I started, like, looking more and more into him, I looked into him a lot more than I usually do with our premonitions, mostly because the fact that he's talked a lot about Native representation in pop culture made me want to kind of see if I could find him talking about this role, which felt kind of uncomfortable to me. And
yeah, again, it's not like the worst, but it's got some issues.
Yeah, and he talked about those issues, like I said in that keynote I mentioned, where he was like, yeah, the kind of like the stilted, stereotypical speech pattern thing happening. And not that I begrudge him taking the roles that he needed to take at the time.
Yeah.
In fact, I found in an interview that at this time in his life, he was like literally a starving artist, and he said he couldn't afford to cut his hair, but it worked out because he got all the period pieces that he needed because he had the long hair already.
Wow.
Yeah. But as I was reading more and more interviews with him and stuff, I'm like, this guy is a badass. I'm like, I already loved him on Rutherford Falls. It's amazing. But I have an even deeper appreciation of him now. So, just throwing that out there.
So I believe that will take us to our second segment, Time Freeze. What specifically dated this episode for you?
Well, to continue on a theme, I feel like this weird, uncomfortable, stereotypical native portrayal was kind of dated. It's what dated the episode.
Yeah, I mean, I mostly associate it with 90s movies. I feel like it was a big thing in the 90s.
Yeah.
But early 2000s were still kind of the 90s. And
yeah.
Although mine specifically was Victor's car, because that was a very popular car in the 90s, or at least where I grew up. And I believe that will take us to our last segment, telekinesis. What, if anything, genuinely moved you this episode?
Phoebe saying that Cole was going to save her because he loved her as much as she loved him.
Okay, I do appreciate that. It's a really, really good emotional beat. Honestly, my thing was just... It was just Prue and Cole's dynamic throughout the whole episode. I know telekinesis is generally for something which, moves you emotionally, but God, I love that dynamic so much.
Yeah, I did like them together. It was pretty good. So, our next episode is going to be Just Harried. And,
God.
Yes, the description from Peacock is... Prue's uncontrollable dreams ruin Piper's hope for a peaceful wedding.
Yeah, it's the one where Prue's astral self goes out and has sex with a biker dude who then busts up Piper's wedding by driving in on a motorcycle.
I suspect this episode's going to be amazing too.
Alright, so I think that'll about do it.
Yeah, I think that'll do it for this week. Our show is partially listener supported. If you want to be one of our supporters, you should head over to our website, www.welcometotelevision.net, and click on our Patreon link. We'd like to thank our current $5 and above patrons, Beryl, Patricia, Rosa, Ryan, Maricruz, Benjamin, Kate, Jen, and Dan.
If you'd like to support the show in other ways, you could always rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It helps other people find the show.
If you want to talk about this episode or any episode of any television show, you should join our Facebook group, Welcome to Television.
We can also be contacted at I Love TV Zines on Twitter or at ilovetelevisionzines@gmail.com.
So until next time, I'm Tina.
And I'm Max.
And this has been Welcome to Halliwell Manor.